All right, John. So I'm gonna uh, bring to attention what you have highlighted in your opening statement in my rebuttal. And for those that are joining, this is the debate on the great apostasy. And John had just done his opening statement, and it's my chance to rebut some of the points that he's brought up. And one of them being the twisting of the doctrine of original sin as a later development that Paul never taught. And um, I'll I'll come back to that one. Also, the loss of ordinances of the gospel and removal of plain and precious truths. And when I asked him about what was the plain and precious truths that were taken out, he had brought up the deuterocanonical works, such as Sirach, um, um, Tobit, and um, I mean the books that the Protestants call the Apocrypha have been. He claims that they've been taken out, but if you ask any Protestant, they would say that is not true. They just call it the Apocrypha, and those books still exist in most Protestant circles. Um, and Protestants, like they still revere those books. They call it apocryphal, and if you look into the meaning of that, it doesn't mean you can like. It doesn't mean there's nothing good in there. There's still truth in there. So I'm not seeing that line of attack as a very strong line of attack, and that's why I'm bringing this back to you, John. Where was the loss of truth per the great apostasy claims? Like that, I even if you go to the doctrine of original sin, the early church is already talking about immaculate conception because original sin was on their mind. And immaculate conception goes back to the proto-evangelism of James, which is again one of those deuterocanonical works that never lost. Like we always had the proto-evangelism of James, which talks about Saint Joseph and his lineage, also Mary's lineage. Mary had parents named who are saints now, Saint Joachim and Saint Anne, and they couldn't bear children, so it was a miracle that Mary was born by immaculate conception. So these are not later developments. We have written documentation of the proto-evangelism of James, and who Saint Joachim is and who Saint Anne is. Like we know these people existed. So your line of attack that we developed the doctrine of original sin in the 4th and 5th century, it just doesn't add up because we were already looking ahead to the ecumenical council on whether Mary is the mother of God or whether Jesus is fully divine. If so, is Mary the mother of the human Jesus or the divine? And then the council determined by the gift, by revelation of the Holy Spirit, who Jesus promised will lead us to all truth, brought us to that truth that Mary is the mother of the divine Jesus. So these are not later developments, but they were looking at the tradition as a whole, and the deuterocanonical works was part of that tradition. The proto-evangelism of James was part of that tradition to know who Mary was, who her parents were, and how she came to be without sexual intercourse. And not that it's a bad thing, but in this context, she came without original sin into the world. That's why Jesus comes to us without original sin. He was in a tabernacle that had no sin in it, that no unclean thing can dwell in that tabernacle. So I hope I have resolved that question, that it's not a twisting of any doctrine. This doctrine has always been part of the church's teaching, and it was never lost to any kind of a apostasy. All right, I yield my time.